Have you ever stood at the edge of tomorrow, feeling your heart pound with uncertainty? That suffocating grip of fear that makes you question every decision, every path, every possibility? Right now, in this very moment, imagine Jesus sitting across from you, looking into your eyes with that penetrating gaze that sees past your brave face and directly into your trembling soul. What would he say to you about the future that terrifies you? The answer might shatter everything you've been telling yourself about fear, about faith, and about the magnificent destiny that's waiting just beyond your anxiety. Jesus wouldn't start with platitudes or empty reassurances. He would first acknowledge the weight you're carrying, the legitimate concerns that keep you awake at 3 in the morning. He understands that your fear isn't weakness, but rather evidence of how deeply you care about getting life right. The mortgage, the relationship, the career decision, the health concern, the family crisis. These aren't trivial matters, and he never treated human concerns as trivial. In fact, his first words might surprise you with their profound understanding of your specific situation. He would remind you of the sparrows, those tiny birds worth almost nothing in the marketplace of his time, yet not one falls to the ground without your Father knowing. But here's the revelation that changes everything. You are worth infinitely more than many sparrows. This isn't just poetry or religious rhetoric. This is the fundamental reality of how the creator of the universe sees you. Your next chapter, the one that terrifies you, is already known to him, already prepared, already infused with purpose that transcends your current understanding. Jesus would tell you that fear is actually a signpost, not a stop sign. Every time fear rises in your chest about what comes next, it's pointing towards something significant, something that matters deeply to your soul's journey. The people who never feel fear about the future are either not paying attention or not attempting anything meaningful. Your fear proves you're alive, engaged, and standing at a threshold of transformation. The question isn't whether you should feel afraid, but what you'll do with that fear when it arrives. He would speak about the illusion of control that you've been clinging to like a life raft. All those mental calculations, backup plans, and desperate attempts to forecast every possible outcome, they're exhausting you because they were never meant to be your burden. Control is the counterfeit security that humanity has traded for the real thing, trust. The future you're trying to control has already been touched by grace, already been woven into a larger story, already been prepared with provisions you cannot yet see. Your white-knuckled grip of certainty is actually preventing you from receiving what's being offered. Consider how he walked on water toward his terrified disciples in the storm. The detail that most people miss is this: he intended to pass them by, to demonstrate his authority over the chaos they feared. But when he saw their terror, he stopped, climbed into their boat, and immediately the storm ceased. Your next storms aren't obstacles to him. They're opportunities for you to witness his power. He doesn't promise the absence of storms, but he absolutely guarantees his presence in every single one. Jesus would challenge your definition of success and failure regarding what comes next. You're afraid of making the wrong choice, taking the wrong path, missing the invisible right option that will make everything perfect. But he would tell you that this binary thinking completely misunderstands how divine guidance actually works. There isn't just one single perfect decision that you might miss. There's a relationship with him that transforms every decision into an opportunity for growth, redemption, and purpose. Even your mistakes become raw material for miracles. He would point to his own journey toward Jerusalem, knowing exactly what awaited him there. The agony in the garden, the betrayal, the cross, he saw it all coming and still moved forward. Not because he wasn't afraid, but because he understood that the greatest purposes often require walking through the valley of our deepest fears. Your next chapter might indeed contain difficulty, loss, or pain, but avoiding it won't spare you. It will only rob you of the transformation that's waiting on the other side of your obedience. The future you fear might actually be the future you've been praying for in disguise. That job loss could be the doorway to your true calling. That relationship ending could be protection from years of slow death. That financial pressure could be the crucible that forges your character into something unbreakable. Jesus sees the entire timeline, the complete picture, the final masterpiece that your current confusion will eventually reveal. What looks like chaos from your limited perspective is actually cosmos, divine order from his eternal vantage point. He would tell you to stop rehearsing disaster in your mind. Every time you mentally practice the worst-case scenario, you're not preparing yourself, you're imprisoning yourself in a future that hasn't happened and likely never will. This mental torture chamber you've constructed is not wisdom or prudence, it's agreement with fear instead of agreement with faith. The mind that constantly rehearses catastrophe becomes incapable of recognizing blessing when it arrives. Your imagination was meant to be a garden of possibility, not a graveyard of dreaded outcomes. Jesus would speak about the difference between concern and anxiety. Concern moves you toward wise action. Anxiety paralyzes you in toxic rumination. Concern says, "What steps can I take today?" Anxiety says, "What if everything falls apart tomorrow?" One is productive and grounded in the present moment. The other is destructive and lost in a future that exists only in your worried mind. He never condemned thoughtful planning, but he consistently confronted the soul-destroying habit of anxious projection into uncertain tomorrows. He would remind you of every single time in your past when you were absolutely certain disaster was coming, and yet somehow, some way, you're still here. You made it through the thing you thought would break you. You survived the loss you believed would end you. You found a way when there seemed to be no way. This isn't luck or coincidence. This is the pattern of providence that has followed you your entire life. The same divine faithfulness that brought you through every previous impossible situation hasn't suddenly retired from your story. There's a profound truth about divine timing that Jesus would want you to understand. The delay you're experiencing isn't denial, it's development. The waiting period that's driving you crazy isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're being made ready for what you're asking for, because receiving the blessing before you're prepared for it would actually destroy you. The caterpillar doesn't fear the cocoon, it trusts the process of metamorphosis. Your current uncertainty is the cocoon, and what's coming next is wings you cannot yet imagine. Jesus would challenge you to examine what you're really afraid of beneath the surface fears. Are you actually afraid of failure, or are you afraid of discovering your own strength? Are you truly worried about the unknown future, or are you terrified of leaving behind the familiar pain that's become comfortable? Sometimes we cling to our current struggles because at least we know how to survive them. The unknown requires a different kind of courage, the courage to believe you're capable of more than mere survival. He would tell you that fear becomes toxic when it masquerades as wisdom. How many opportunities have you declined, relationships avoided, risks refused, all under the banner of being smart or being realistic? But wisdom that leads to perpetual paralysis isn't wisdom at all. It's fear wearing a respectable mask. True wisdom acknowledges uncertainty while still stepping forward in faith. True wisdom says, "I don't know what comes next, but I know who holds what comes next," and that's enough. Consider the Israelites at the edge of the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army approaching from behind. They had every logical reason to be terrified about what came next. The future looked like certain death, trapped between water and weapons. But that impossible moment became the stage for one of history's greatest miracles. Your current impossibility isn't the end of your story. It's the setup for God to reveal His power in ways that will leave you breathless. The situations that seem most hopeless are often pregnant with the most magnificent possibilities.
Jesus would speak to the perfectionism that's fueling your fear. You're terrified of making a mistake, of choosing poorly, of disappointing others or yourself. But perfectionism is actually a form of pride disguised as conscientiousness. It assumes you should be capable of flawless navigation through an inherently uncertain existence. He offers you something far better than perfection. He offers you grace that redeems every imperfect step, love that celebrates your courage more than your correctness, and a relationship that grows stronger through your vulnerable missteps. The future you're afraid of contains treasures that your fear cannot see. There are divine appointments, supernatural connections, unexpected resources, and miraculous interventions already positioned along your path, but they're invisible to the eyes of anxiety. Fear has a way of creating tunnel vision that only sees danger and overlooks the 1,000 ways that grace is already preparing your way. What if the next chapter isn't the disaster you're imagining, but the breakthrough you've been desperately praying for? Jesus would tell you to stop waiting for the fear to disappear before you move forward. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's obedience in the presence of fear. Every hero of faith in Scripture was afraid. Moses, David, Esther, Paul, but they moved forward anyway. The disciples were terrified in the storm, yet they still followed Jesus onto the water. Your fear doesn't disqualify you from your calling. In fact, it often confirms you're heading in the right direction. The things worth doing rarely feel safe from the starting line. He would remind you that you're not alone in facing what comes next. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. The same power that spoke galaxies into existence is available to you in your most anxious moment. The same wisdom that orchestrates the cosmos is accessible to you when you're making decisions that feel impossibly complex. You're not navigating the future with your limited human resources. You're partnered with the infinite God who already inhabits your tomorrow. There's something crucial about perspective that Jesus would want to shift in your thinking. From your current vantage point, you see the next few steps and they terrify you. But he sees the entire journey, the complete arc of your story, the beautiful destination that all these confusing pieces are building toward. What looks like a random collection of chaos to you is actually a magnificent mosaic when viewed from eternity's perspective. Every thread of uncertainty you're experiencing is being woven into a tapestry of purpose that will one day leave you in awe. Jesus would address the comparison trap that amplifies your fear. You look at others who seem to have it all figured out, whose futures appear certain and secure, and you feel even more inadequate about your own uncertainty. But this is an illusion. Everyone is afraid of what comes next. Some are just better at hiding it. And those seemingly perfect paths you're envying often contain struggles and sorrows you cannot see. Your journey is uniquely yours, custom designed for your specific growth, and comparing it to anyone else's is like comparing a symphony to a painting. Both are valuable, but completely different forms of art. He would tell you that faith isn't believing everything will turn out exactly as you hope. Faith is trusting that whatever unfolds will ultimately work for your good. This is the profound promise that changes everything. Not that you'll avoid all pain, but that no pain will be wasted. Not that you'll never face loss, but even loss becomes the soil from which new life grows. The future you fear might indeed bring challenges, but it cannot bring anything that grace cannot redeem, transform, and use for purposes beyond your current comprehension. Consider how many of your current blessings were once feared futures. The job you love now terrified you when you applied. The relationship that brings you joy scared you when you first opened your heart. The home you cherish seemed like an impossible risk when you first committed. Looking back, you can see how your fears were unfounded, how provision appeared, how things worked out in ways you couldn't have orchestrated. This pattern of faithful provision hasn't stopped. You've just forgotten to remember it when facing what comes next.
Jesus would end by asking you a simple but profound question. Do you trust me? Not, do you trust the economy, your employer, your health, your own abilities, or your carefully constructed plans, but do you trust me? Because at the core of every fear about the future is a trust issue with the one who holds the future. He's not asking for blind optimism or delusional positive thinking. He's inviting you into a relationship of such depth and intimacy that his character becomes more real to you than your circumstances, his promises more tangible than your problems, his presence more powerful than your panic. The fear you feel about what comes next is not your enemy, it's your invitation. An invitation to deeper faith, greater surrender, more profound trust, and a more intimate walk with the one who already knows every detail of your tomorrow. He's not afraid of your future, and the moment you fully grasp that he's already there, already preparing the way, already positioning everything for your ultimate good, fear loses its paralyzing power. What comes next might be uncertain, but who comes with you is absolutely certain. And that, ultimately, is the only certainty you'll ever need. Step forward today, take the next right action, and watch how the path illuminates itself one faithful step at a time. If this message resonated with your spirit today, if you felt Jesus speaking directly to your fear about what comes next, do me a favor. Hit that like button so this message can reach others who are standing at the same threshold of fear you're facing. Subscribe to this channel if you want more encounters with timeless truth for modern anxiety. And drop a comment below telling me, what's the one fear about your future that you're choosing to release today after hearing these words? Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to find their own courage. Remember, you're not walking into tomorrow alone, and your next chapter is already infused with grace you cannot yet see.